Welcome. So, 1983, full decade before the web. This was everyone's teenage years, right? The computers get you the pretty girls. This was for me. I guess I was about 11 years old. This was one of the first films that I kind of became slightly obsessive over, and it was only a few years after this that a British guy by the name of Cole Needham decided there ought to be a way that we could catalogue films. Hollywood had a rich history, and there was kind of, not really documented in any one central spot. So he wanted to catalogue by actor, director, so forth. The internet was available to some. It was sort of news groups back then, and mostly available through universities. He started compiling some lists. At that time it went by the catchy name of rec.arts.movies movie database, and it looked something like this. There's Stanley Kubrick's entry there. So this is by this time early 1990s. I was studying at University of Auckland. Used to download this thing on a regular basis, about a megabyte and a half of text files, and stick it in a text editor and search it. That was how we got this information. You might recognise it better if I do this to it. So eventually Colin's databases found their way from the news groups to what was then the nascent World Wide Web. He co-founded the Internet Movie Database, the IMDb, which it's a fairly utilitarian tool, but to this day it is pretty much the best and most complete source of film data that is anywhere on the web. Because it's focused on the database side, the who started and what, that sort of thing, the social features that Amazon, who now own it, have tried to add to it haven't really been that successful. It's pretty much ended up a bit like YouTube, where you just get a lot of idiots making stupid comments, and there's a lot of noise and not too much substance. Looks like this. Actually, it doesn't look like that. That's a much prettier version that was done by Ryan Sims and Keith Robinson about 5 years ago. They did an exercise to sort of take what is a fairly ugly thing and make it a bit more beautiful. It was for future web design. So they sort of addressed the aesthetics of the site, but not really the social aspects in this sort of little review. So it's about this time also that a piece of desktop software was released for the Mac, and it's called Delicious Library. This was the first version. Its cleverest feature was this little thing here, which was basically barcode scanning software that the guys behind it wrote to use your camera's webcam, or your computer's webcam, and be able to hold up DVDs and books and games, and have them automatically added to your list of stuff. So at the time, competing applications were basically horrible sort of tabular things. They looked like database software, and this thing was a breath of fresh air. It's also probably pertinent to note that this was way before Apple was doing sort of skeuomorphic interfaces, which is taking a real world object and putting it on the screen. The faux wooden shelves probably feel a bit done now because it's been aped so much, but this was quite groundbreaking at the time. Probably will not surprise you that this guy here, who's scanning his book there, was the designer of this app, and went on to design the interface for the original iPhone when he moved to Apple. Clever guy, name of Mike Matas. So we thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if this was on the web? We want to have stuff, and particularly interested in films, and there's not really many places that we felt were, you know, the kind of place that we would want to share this information, and we want to share it with our friends. So, you know, by this time, Flickster, Rotten Tomatoes, there was a bunch of sites out there. Most of them had, you know, 20-page quizzes about various things that popped up all over Facebook and just seemed, I guess, designed to annoy more than anything. Back to Delicious Library for a second, though. After the first version came out, they made a lot of song and dance, or a lot of noise about the fact, hey, we're going to have social. We're going to take what we've done with Delicious Library and move it to the web. And we got quite excited about the prospect of that. However, when 2 years later, when the second version of Delicious came out, it was basically a static HTML export. There was no social. And so this idea of having social film sharing basically sort of came back into our head. So we started thinking, what if we made our own thing? What would we want to share? And it came down more or less to two things: a record of what we watched and what you thought of it, and the ability to arbitrarily collect films together into a list of sorts which you could share and sort of plot your progress against and that sort of thing. As the idea began to percolate, we threw in some more ideas. So we would want maybe a follower model like Twitter's, a dashboard like Tumblr's, where you could follow along with what your friends were sort of watching. Might want to rate stuff, tag stuff, that sort of thing. So this is our idea, but what was the process we went through? How did we sort of prepare ourselves to make it a reality? Well, we needed a specification. We hate writing specs. So we've always worked best in the projects that we've done by getting some sort of first draft quite quickly. Some projects require a full specification. This one sort of we wanted to, I guess, get the team that would be working on it excited about what it could be. So we would define the interface characteristics in a few screenshots and use that as sort of a working draft. 6 months later, slightly less awful. Posters look pretty good on black, so that's sort of a starting point. Basically went away and sort of thought about it for a year and worked on other projects and then came back and started to, I guess, put something that's more like the site that you might be familiar with now. Put a homepage together. So I guess by this point we were faced with a decision. This had been sort of just an after hours thing up until then, and we, as a business, Carl and myself, my co-founder, needed to decide, well, we're either going to make this a reality, put some company time into it, or we're not. And we wanted something to, I guess, obsess over and get excited about and do alongside our client work if we could manage that. So we didn't have a revenue model, but there are a few to choose from. And we are in the position, I guess, the lucky position that we are able to use some of our company time to work on it. So one of the first things we needed to decide was where the information would come from. IMDb is, of course, the best, but they charge 5 figures per year to access their data for any sort of third-party application. So, that right back then was a sizable sum. So we basically ended up settling on a crowdsourced alternative called the MovieDB. Not quite as fully stocked, we should say, as IMDb, but it's a work in progress. And unless you're watching really obscure stuff, you'll find everything is on there. It's the same software or same service that powers Xbox Media Center, Plex, and a bunch of those sort of things. So we get the synopses for the films, the poster art, all of the cross-referenced actor, director, studio stuff from that via their API, and that was a good starting point for the platform as a whole. So remember these guys, Gary and Wyatt, Weird Science. I guess we took the approach that this thing didn't exist, just like these guys. We wanted it, so we were going to go and build it. So we put together a team. I have a picture of our first day coding. There you go. So maybe it didn't quite go down like that, but that's Carl's favourite film, so you know, it's for him. So, to be more specific, our team was Mike Harding on design, Grant Berridge, Grant Berridge is our lead developer, and my business partner at Cactus Lab, Carl Von Rando, who is basically leading, helping with strategy and leading on the scaling architecture and performance. So, along with myself, this is sort of the core team that has worked on the site. Most of the rest of the members in our studio have contributed one way or another as well. So we built out basically a version 1 prototype, and I guess around the middle of last year we began inviting our friends. So they gave masses of terrific feedback, and they seemed to like it. We had our own experience to draw on, and we started, you know, making revisions and refining. And I guess when you're quite close to a project like this, and your friends are also, you know, they're your mates, they can sometimes be a little bit too close to be objective. So we felt that it was important that we had some critical eye on it. So I knew one person that was sort of like a startup doctor, if you will. Very smart guy. I took the site to him. By that time we were pretty pleased with it, and it pretty much ended up like this. Can we handle the truth? And he more or less went through just about every part of the site and told us how it was wrong and why it was wrong and why we needed to fix it. So he really wasn't that grumpy. He was very good about it. I think it was almost to the point where he thought that he would never be welcome back in our office at one stage. But it was awesome. Is he here?
What's his name?
Rob Isaac. So here's another quote I stole from Webstock. Prototype as if you were right, listen as if you were wrong. And I think we had never seen this quote at the time, but I think this is again quite pertinent for creative projects to be in the phase where you're putting stuff together. You need to be making those decisions as though you 100% know your audience, and then getting the feedback as if you know every assumption that you've made is false, and taking on board everything that everyone says. So we have you know, really rely heavily on the feedback from our users. So about 8 months after we'd kind of made a start, we sort of made a push to get the site ready for a wider sort of private beta, and I was going to be in New York in October last year, so I thought, well, try and get along to a Brooklyn beta, which is sort of a small but influential web conference, and they invite people that are working on startups to come and get up in front of a crowd about 5 times the size of this and totally freak themselves out and, you know, show their product. So I did that, and this is not the video that I played, but I'll give you a little video for those that haven't seen the site. This is kind of what it's about.
Jiggling out some jeans, baby, pull your pants up. I like it when I see you do it better than I've ever seen it done before. A lot of women drop it to the ground, but how slow can you go? Lower than your mama's ever
So we showed that and slightly extended version thereof, and I had some good feedback on the day, but things kind of went a bit dark. No rush of sign-ups, no tweets, nothing. And we sort of thought, well, these are our people. Surely we might have managed to pique their curiosity. But I think, it's just the natural progression of things that immediately post a conference like that, people are busy, they're traveling, sort of thing. So I stayed on in New York for a few days. I was probably unbearable to be around. And maybe 4 days later, I was checking on the Twitter search that we'd set up, and this from Koi Vin, who was used to be the design director at the New York Times online, and I thought, oh, well, that's kind of gratifying. And then Naz Hamid from Weight Shift chimed in and said, that he liked the site, and emails started to come in, and sign-ups started to pick up. And just when you think that you're onto something and people like what you're doing, we have Devon around to give us a big old reality check. So yeah, thanks Devon. I guess it's not exactly why we're doing this, but we appreciate your input. So what quickly began to realise, I think probably more so than with regard to regular client work, is that when you put a project like this out there that is your own thing, it's a little bit about the ebb and flow of things. And we have, I guess, decided or tried not to get too caught up in what's being said about it. We love the great comments. Just as many people ready to rip us to shreds. Why aren't we using IMDb? Why aren't we doing this? We suck. We don't have a mobile app yet. But all these things are in the planning. So while we try not to get, I guess, too caught up in the feedback, we had a particularly dark day. I guess when a hero of mine deleted his account on the site. This is pretty much how we were feeling. He did follow it up with a sort of "it's not you, it's me" email, which I guess made us feel a little bit better. He was just sort of trying to reduce his online footprint, as it were. We can, I guess, get into the situation where we're too caught up in this new service and that new service and find ourselves spread pretty thin. But in general, the feedback that we've had has been, vastly positive. It's been lucid and really constructive. So where are we at now? We're still invitation only, private beta, so anyone that doesn't have an account cannot see the site. We've just about up to 12,000 users since October. We haven't really, we send out invitations now and then, but we haven't really pushed it. That many films have been marked as watched, over 1 million films, which is kind of cool. We're doing about 1 million, just over 1 million page views a month at the moment, and that's only, 10% of those are on the homepage, and the rest of them are within the site. So that shows a pretty good sort of involvement, these users in the site. So now we're in a stage of tuning up, I guess, to do a more public launch. The general pattern of these creative mornings talks is that we should reflect on how a project went and how we're feeling about it afterwards. Well, of course, we're just really very early days for us. We're right at the start. And I want to just touch a little bit on the idea of simplicity. And this started off as a really simple idea, diary lists. And I think we were all surprised by how quickly that can grow into something that's complex, complicated, has complicated interactions, and how quickly users might pick up those interactions. So I'll just I'll just quickly take as a case study this the interface for adding a film. So this is kind of what it is now, and it's not too complex, and there's a few things you can do there, put in a review and rate and like and add tags and what have you. This was the first look at first design that we came up for this. Way too busy, too much going on. We tried a few different alternatives. A little pop-up. Seemed this version was a little bit hard to figure out how you might change the date, for example, and was sort of didn't feel quite right. This was a version where you click through several stages. We called it the wizard. We have ended up with a two-stage sort of approach in the current site, and here's sort of a Frankenstein mixture of all of those that was just sort of, we did as part of our exploration. So just in terms of what's going on here, so we started out with making the date field a mandatory field, and you're putting something in a diary, more or less. That's the purpose of the site. So you need a date. Well, our users told us that no, they didn't want to specify a date. They wanted to say, hey, I watched this movie and here's what I thought of it, but they don't need to tell us when the date was. So we changed our approach there. And I guess this sort of interaction brought up some complexities. What if the user rates or likes a film in here but doesn't give a date and doesn't add a review and doesn't add any tags? It's sort of going to end up with sort of cruft, spammy, empty pages elsewhere on the site. So we sort of, I guess, came up with a solution that treats all of the input from this as different outputs depending on what you do. So if you only add a rating in here, that's all we add. We add a rating for the film. And if you add a review and a date, then it sort of goes more into your permanent diary on the site. We also had to decide what happens if you rate a film and then later on you rate it again. Do we only keep one rating for the film, or do we allow that rating to change over time? So we are allowing it to change over time at the moment, but that's brought, I guess, an interesting sort of set of challenges of its own in terms of users understanding what might change and when. So the predominant feeling when we're working on a site most days is that we're having a good time. We're doing some good work and we're having fun. But there's a healthy dose of holy shit. This thing's we've got to be careful that this thing doesn't get away from us. Our mobile experience sucks, and that's what we're concentrating on moving forward. And that's about my time. So thank you for listening. You can sign up here. There were some beta codes outside. If you don't get one, drop us an email through the site and mention Creative Mornings, and we will happily send you one. Thank you very much.